All right, the audible is on. It's a rare Saturday audible.
That's right.
Are we dropping today, or are we just audibleizing today?
I think we're just live today.
We're live action going on out here. We're at the Hard Rock Stadium. It's the Dolphins inter-squad scrimmage, and really, John, this is kind of the first opportunity to get a barometer of what this football team is like in simulated game-type situations. They'll go through their individual drills and all those types of things before, and then about 11:30 they'll start going ones versus ones, two versus, and break down whatever way they're going to do that. So it's going to be an interesting day. John, it's funny because I was doing I did a radio show yesterday, and a little bit in the radio show, and a guy asked an interesting question. He said, when you watch training camp, he said, do you watch and evaluate guys on a day-by-day basis? And I said, well, I tend to watch them. I tend to look for guys that are stacking days together. Guys are having a good day and then follow it up with another good day. Maybe have a bad day, but then follow it up with another good day. And I think we've been in here long enough, John, for the last week or so since training camp began, although it seems like it's been a month already.
It does. It really does.
Where you're starting to see some guys put together good days. And I'm looking at like Mike Gesicki's a guy that I think starting to stack together some good days and some meaningful days.
I think so, too.
I look at
Xavier Howard.
Xavier Howard's been stacking a lot
Danny
together.
Amendola.
Torrey McTyer's been putting days together. Chase Allen's been putting some days together. And so those are the things you want to look at, and I want to see you want to see the matchups. You know, Torrey McTyer, here's a guy that undrafted free agent, and he looks like he's got that inside track right now on the position opposite of Xavier Howard, which means Tony Lippett's got to step up his game. Tank's got to step up his game if those guys want to compete, because I know every one of those guys came in here expecting to be that guy opposite Xavier Howard. Now they've got to try to make it happen.
Well, a lot of those guys you mentioned are making it happen. Yep. And at that particular position, Bo, you've got constant competition. So in a dress rehearsal setting like today, getting ready for the Tampa Bay preseason game a week from last Thursday, you want to be able to put your best foot forward, because these are a little bit more meaningful. Although it's a glorified practice setting because you're here at Hard Rock Stadium, I think the coaches are going to critique each and every movement just as they would if this team was practicing in Davie and they had a walkthrough later on this afternoon. So there's a lot of guys that you mentioned that are stacking good days upon good days. Albert Wilson, a guy that's come on strong, getting more opportunities during training camp. He's a guy. You know, you look up front, Vincent Taylor, a guy that really haven't been mentioned a whole lot from last year to this year. Still a very young body at defensive tackle. He's a guy that is starting to stack days back to back. So you like to see some of that youthfulness of the Miami Dolphins, because at a lot of positions, you know, you can just look at opposite Vincent Taylor and look at Jesse Davis. Those are the type of players that are going to have to come through for this team to be successful.
And you look at this, John, and it is, you know, you start looking at the secondary, you start looking at the offensive line, and you're saying, look, they're building some depth along with some young good quality players in there. Excuse me. So that's a good situation. But then you've got a couple questions out there. The outside linebacker position. You know, Raekwon McMillan back for his rookie year after having missed the entire season last year with a knee injury. He's coming back and he looks like he's competing well. But what's happening at that other spot? Jerome Baker, Chase Allen, Stephon Anthony, all those guys. These days are big days for them. Because somebody needs to find that. Somebody needs to put a stranglehold on that linebacker position. Kiko, they're saying, is playing better because of Raekwon McMillan's in there. Frees Kiko up a little bit to not be that guy that has to make every call. Raekwon can take over some of that. But that third spot, that third linebacker spot, really right now, as far as I'm concerned, that's as up for grabs as any position on this roster right now.
I think it's a lot like the cornerback position opposite X. You've got a lot of competition with a lot of guys that have done it in the past, but can they do it on a more consistent basis to make it not a liability position? You talk about linebackers, and you know, you have a question mark. You have McMillan back in the middle, but he hasn't played. You know, this is a guy that is untested, so you hope that what happens in practice translates to the preseason, and then he carries it on to the regular season. I think Kiko Alonso, as we watch the defense and defensive backs and some of the returners come out, on Hard Rock Stadium, some of those guys have to flash. Kiko played with one arm last year. I think he's healthy. I think his wrist problem, his thumb problems are behind him. He looks good out on the practice field, but you're right. Who's going to be the next guy? Chase Allen, to me, has been one of those guys, along with Stephon Anthony, that have been getting a lot of first-team reps. So those guys are going to get those first opportunities to solidify the position. You're wanting somebody not only to flash today, but be consistent and make that trio really one unit, a cohesive unit.
And that's a funny situation because those guys you've got, Jerome, Chase, Stephon Anthony, they all give you a little different things. Jerome may be a guy that makes some big plays for you, but maybe out of place at other times. I think Chase Allen's a guy that can make plays for you and is very consistent with what he gives you. Now, Stephon Anthony, to me, he's kind of the question mark because we saw a lot of him last year, but I think you need to see more of him to figure out. But I think that's going to be a fun position to watch and evaluate over the next couple of weeks as you got the scrimmage here today. You got a preseason game on Thursday night right here at Hard Rock Stadium. And, John, you know how it is. You talk about, it's just a scrimmage. Well, you know what? The first practice when you're out at the training facility, that's a big day for you. Then you kind of get into the doldrums of football. And then if you have your inter-squad scrimmage at training camp, that brings it to a different level. Now you bring that inter-squad scrimmage to the stadium, brings up to another level. So even though this is just, as you said, a glorified practice out here, the intensity level is going to be ratcheted up about 2 notches from where it would be on a normal practice. And I think that's what all these fans are out here wanting to see, is how these guys are going to react in a situation where they're at the stadium, the stakes are a little higher, and let's see who plays the best hand.
Well, fans are watching Danny Amendola catch punts. You've got Jakeem Grant back there. You've also got Albert Wilson, who's going to contribute a little bit, just trying to get him involved and get his hands on the football. But I think when you look at maybe these punt returners, Jakeem Grant's going to have the majority of those opportunities because of his electrifying speed and making people miss. But I do believe in tight situations and backed up on inside your own 10-yard line, you might see Danny Amendola get the majority of those opportunities. And, Bo, just watching him at practice and what a pro he's been over his career, it's nice to see guys work as hard as he works at his craft, at perfecting his route running and perfecting, the jugs machine catching after practice, doing all the little things that you're hoping that some of the other guys at that position do.
And along that same line, guys that they brought in, I've said this enough times, and I'll continue to say it about this football team. If they want to be a playoff team, this is got to be a team full of overachievers. Guys have to come out and play better than they did last year, better than maybe they think they can play if they want to be there. But you bring in a guy like Danny Amendola, you bring in a Sitton, you bring in a Kilgore, you bring in the
Robert Quinn.
You bring in Robert Quinn, the defensive end. And these are all guys that are, not only are they good players in their own right, but these are guys that other younger guys go to and look for advice. Frank Gore, another guy that knows how to be a pro, knows how to get himself ready to play, and the young guys are going up to him, hey, how do you go about this? What do you think here? And to have those guys that are ultra willing to share their knowledge, I think it certainly adds an opportunity to this team to get more guys to play like they played in their careers and overachieve a little bit.
I think, they set a great example for the guys at other positions. You can be offense, defense, special teams. You watch guys in their individual work, the way they have a certain attention to detail and doing things. And both of the guys that you mentioned at the top, Danny Amendola and Frank Gore, and you throw in a Sitton and Kilgore, it makes you wonder. You keep going down the roster, then you come up with guys like Cam Wake and William Hayes and guys that really pay attention to detail.
Albert Wilson.
Right, exactly. Guys that really want to make this team from pretty good to great. It's a hard step to take. It's hard to get from 6 wins back to 10 if you're not doing the little things, and I think that's one of the issues at training camp that you don't have to worry about so far through maybe 7 to 10 days at camp. You've seen that attention to detail. You've seen the guys working hard, and you've seen the guys get after it a lot, and I expect a little bit more of that today.
And you know what they need? They need some guys. I'm looking at Cam Wake because he comes out in the field and looks like he's still 22 years old, and the different guys out here. But you know, there are a lot of guys that have been around this franchise, that have been on this team for a long time, that quite frankly are sick and tired of not being a playoff team, sick and tired of not having the respect of the national the media, sick and tired of being sitting home and watching other teams, you know, get all the attention during the postseason. And you know what? They've got to flex that muscle. They've got to come in and walk. God damn it, I'm sick and tired of this
That's
shit.
right.
If we want to be a team, we can't talk about it. We got to go out and do it. If some of these guys, they need to, their bitterness for not having been there needs to spill out to some of these other guys. They really don't understand yet the importance of being a playoff football team and building that reputation around the league on a year-to-year basis.
Well, what it takes to be a playoff team, they have to go back 2 years and look at all the close games that were won by the Miami Dolphins. And in that particular year, you win by not making mistakes, not making, you know, winning the turnover battle, the penalty issue, all the little things that it takes to be in a position at the end of a fourth quarter to either win or stop a team from scoring. Those are the things that Cam Wake and company bring their experience to say this is how we did it when we were able to be successful and get to the playoffs, and now you want to take that next step.
It also shows you the fine line in this league between winning and losing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they won a lot of those games in fourth quarter, big plays, you know, that made things happen, and they could easily have ball bounces the other way, and you find yourself in a different situation. So it's interesting, this league, and how it comes down to the last drive, whether you're an offense or defense, you're going to stop them or they're going to score. That's going to make a difference.
Hey,
one of the other things, John, that we haven't talked about, that to me is the number one key to the success of this football team, far and away above everything else, is number 17, Ryan Tannehill. A, his health, and B, how he plays. I'm not overly concerned with his health because I think he's rehabbed and got that knee as strong as it could possibly be. Now, look, something could happen, but there are a lot of guys running around on repaired ACLs out here now that are having. Look at Frank Gore. Look at the career that he's had after having two
major surgeries
that he had.
Well, I think you're right, Bo. Ryan Tannehill, he's looked really good moving around through training camp so far. He's wearing a brace. Today he came out and warmed up about a half an hour ago, just running around without one. I'm sure he'll have one today. He's looked efficient. I mean, he's throwing the deep ball just as good as he did in 2016 as we take a look at Ryan coming out for this practice at Hard Rock Stadium. The guy looks confident. The guy looks like he has command of where he wants to throw the football. And I think it's paramount for him to take that 2016 season and build upon where he left off, because that is the way this team will get from averaging 17, 18 points a season and get to the mid-20s and be able to get back to where they need to be offensively.
He doesn't have the luxury of working his way back to where he was.
Not at all.
He's got to hit the ground running and be at that level of 2016 when he was having a very, very good year for this team. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. I said, you know, as well as he played that year, you kind of forget that first game in Seattle where he got the ball with about 6 or 7 minutes left, drove that team down the field, retook the lead, and then the defense couldn't stop him. But, you know, that was at a time when it's going, what's he done in the fourth quarter? Well, he gave him an opportunity in the fourth quarter in that situation in a very tough environment. So he needs to hit the ground running and be there. So, John, here's the conversation in the media room over the last few days. Ryan, man, hasn't thrown any interceptions. All of a sudden, he throws a couple of interceptions. Oh, geez.
We're in trouble? We're in trouble now?
Yeah, yes. So my question, John, is you being a quarterback and living through this type of situation, I always try to tell these guys, I said, well, look, I really don't care if my quarterback throws an interception during practice because I'm going to find out why he threw the interception in the meeting room. But there's also a part of me who's a non-quarterback that says if I was a quarterback, I would want to make those throws in practice, because a lot of times my assumption would be that if I'm a quarterback, I need to see if I can make this throw. I need to see if I can fit it in a tight window. I need to see if this guy will go into traffic and get a ball. So you may throw more interceptions in practice because you're trying to find out if I can carry this over to a game. Look, I've tried to throw that ball 4 times now. I've had it picked off for 3 times and batted down once. I'm not going to throw that ball in the game. Am I in the right neighborhood here?
Yes, I think so, Bo. There's a lot of things you try at practice that not necessarily you would do in a game.
Yeah.
And depending on how they occur, you're able to get that stuff on film and be not only be able to teach yourself about spacing and about where you want guys to be, but receivers and coverage, teaching those guys, hey, when you see a high safety and you've got a short corner route, I want you to turn that into more of a banana. I want you to peel back a little bit more instead of taking that high angle, because it gives me more room to throw the football. Or if you've got man coverage and you've got leverage on the outside. Now, there were a couple passes the other day that Ryan threw in Xavier Howard's direction. He was able to pick them off. Well, you go back and you look at why. Was the route at the right depth? Was my time? Was I late? Did I stare him down? All those little things that you're trying to figure out.
By the way, Xavier Howard's playing pretty good out here now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you can't discount that.
No, absolutely. But those are opportunities, Bo, like you mentioned, to go back in, and if it's Kenny Stills on the receiving end, or would be on the receiving end, take a look at his route. Take a look at what he did. Did he stem him a little too far? Was the ball thrown inside, not located properly? Was it everything done right but that? So, you take a look at those things and dissect them. But the way he's throwing the football throughout training camp so far, I'm encouraged by it. I'm really encouraged by the way he moves, the way he's been able to tuck the football and run when he has to, all those little things.
I like his demeanor too. His demeanor is different. I think he realized over the last 18 months or so how much he missed playing football and how tough it is being away from the guys and not having that opportunity. And I think you can see a little bit of a youthful exuberance back in his giddy up out here.
I think so too, because he's got to be the leader of this team, not only the offense. As we take a look at 67, that's Daniel Kilgore with Ryan at quarterback. You're right, he has to be in charge. He's the guy that is the leader. He's the face of this franchise right now, and he has to take ownership of that and be able to lead because of who he is. And that doesn't mean changing the dynamic of who he is as a person, who he is as a quarterback. That just means he has to grasp the reality of the situation. He's 30 years old. He's got experience. He's coming back from injury. There's nowhere to look but in the mirror, and he's got to be the guy to lead this team.
John, how concerned are we? How concerned are we, or how concerned should we be, or not? Once you look behind Ryan Tannehill, and I think it's pretty clear to everybody that's been around. David Fales is at this moment. He's a pretty solid number 2, and then after that, throw your cards on the table with Bryce Petty and Brock Osweiler. Are we concerned about that?
I think there should be a level of concern, only because we haven't seen a whole lot of play in a Miami Dolphin uniform in an Adam Gase system. When you look at David Fales on the left, number 9, he's a guy that got to play that last regular season game against the Bills right here at Hard Rock Stadium, and he played pretty well. He put his team and put himself in position moving forward, not only to win that night, but to win the backup job behind Ryan Tannehill for the Miami Dolphins. So I think right now, all accounts, if everything's even for me, he's your backup quarterback. I think Bryce Petty, he's got an uphill climb. He needs to be more accurate during training camp. Hopefully the light turns on when that preseason game number 1 shows up and he gets his opportunity. And for Brock Osweiler, he knows the offense. He's got command at the line of scrimmage. I just thought that we might see a little bit more out of him, because there has been pretty good and then some down days at training camp. So you want to get that consistency level somewhere in the middle where it's not too high or too low. You want to be able to do that at that position.
John, who surprised you so far during training camp, good or bad?
I think the first guy that surprised me that's really good has been Bobby McCain. Not only with his play, but with his leadership. As we watch some of the linebackers and tight ends and defensive backs come out on the field, wide receivers. I think Bobby McCain should be a captain on this football team.
I'm with you.
I really like his grit. I like the way he goes about his business. I like his communication skills with the other DBs. I like his leadership on the sidelines, constantly talking about coverage, constantly talking about leverage to Minkah Fitzpatrick, to other young corners.
Yep.
And I like his willingness to move from the nickel back position and jump out and get some reps at corner, because that might have to happen during the season to get Mink on the field if you have some inconsistent play opposite of X or you have injury. That scenario could very well take place in 2018. So he's one of the guys that had really kind of jumped out at me. You talked about McTire. You talked about some other guys. I think Calhoun, another corner, kind of jumped out a little bit for me. And on offense, I think Isaiah Ford has jumped out for me, and I really like Rashawn Scott. Not two dynamic wide receivers, but guys that are battling. You know, Jakeem, he's battling, because you want to see the consistency from guys that you expect it from. You want to see it from Stills. You want to see it from Parker. I like the other three guys I mentioned just because the way they work, and they're pushing that position.
Are we happy with what we've seen out of Devontae Parker so far? My answer would be not really. My answer would be it's an incomplete quiz as far as I'm concerned with Devontae. You see some things, but I was kind of you kind of expected Devontae to come out and really dominate early on, and he really hasn't, which kind of.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise, and it's a little disconcerting to me, because everybody knows how much is on the line for this franchise with Devontae Parker, and whether or not he has success this season, he's got to have a big year, and I'm a little bit I'm a little bit anxious to see him step up the pace of his game. Let me put it that way.
There's nothing more I'd love to see, Bo, is number 11 catch some meaningful balls in the preseason. Have a little, deep in route, a post route, a comeback on the outside, make somebody miss, take it down, and run after catch for 20 yards, because I think he has that ability. And so does Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills can stretch a defense. We've seen it. We've seen him get behind coverage. But we just want those two players to be at a level that it's never going to go down. They're going to set the bar and stay at that bar or lift it with their performance. And I think that will raise whoever's playing quarterback at that particular time in the preseason, but more importantly during the regular season, raise the consistency and the completion percentage and the explosive play potential for Ryan Tannehill.
Had a chance to talk to Coach Gaze a little bit after practice yesterday, and he kind of gushes about this team from the standpoint that I think he's very happy with the players he's got here. I think he's happy with and I'm kind of like Joe, I'm going to get away from culture and all those kind of things, but I think he's happy with the guys he's got in that locker room. I think he's happy with the work ethic and the leadership that he's got out of the guys that he's brought into this football team. I think he's extremely happy with his coaching staff. I think he feels comfortable with those guys, and he knows the guys and what they can do and what their strengths are, and they're his kind of guys. And so, I think Adam, I'm not saying that this is a make or break year for him, but it's certainly a year where this team's got to play better. They've got to progress. Obviously, the playoffs are going to be, the bar that you set out there, but this football team's got to play better than it did last year. Or I'm not going to say that Adam Gaze is on the hot seat going into the offseason, but certainly the conversation begins if this team has a disappointing year, especially to the level that a lot of the national publications
have
are
talked
predicting
about it
for this football team.
Yeah, the predictions aren't very good as we take a look at the defensive front and the offensive line about ready to come out for this practice at Hard Rock Stadium. And I think the biggest improvement with this coaching staff under Adam Gase is Chris Kasurik, the defensive line coach, and Eric Studsville, the run game coordinator and the running back coach. I think those two guys have brought a different type of mentality to the position, a different level of expectation, a different voice. It's not saying anything about the prior coaching staff, prior guys that were here. I just think when you have change on a team, when you have change on a coaching staff, it needs to be impactful. It needs to be for the right reasons. And I think at both of those positions, you've got change for the right reasons. And the defensive front, the way they're coached on a minute-by-minute, day-by-day, week-by-week process, that spreads to the whole team. I think that's that's contagious for the whole team.
You know, they've got an aggressive nature about them, and he teaches aggressive.
Right.
And look, he'll teach the offensive lineman if he wants to at the same time. So, and look, I'm as a defensive player, as a defensive lineman, as a defensive end, I like the fact that this team has gone out and stacked up defensive ends, because more and more, look. You still have to run the football. You still have to have some success running the football in this league, or you've got to have a real threat of running the football. But having said that, the passing game just continues to get more and more important, which in turn makes, pass rushing when I was there, pass rushing when players played before me was way different than it is now. And I don't think pass rushing has ever been as important in this league as it is right now, and it's been growing like that over the last decade.
Nothing affects the game more than that edge speed rush up the field, throwing the timing off when quarterbacks throughout the National Football League are averaging 30-plus attempts a game. Nothing disrupts a game more than having that strip sack and getting the crowd into it and instantly giving your offense field position. That's if you don't scoop and score on the fumble recovery. So you're right, Bo. The game has changed from the 70s and 80s when you ran the football and you controlled the clock and you did all those things, and you played in that box to where now you're pretty much in shotgun the majority of the game. You're throwing it, and your quick passing game is an extension of your running game. And you're trying to affect the defensive ends and that pressure by getting rid of the football quickly and quick turning in routes or bubble screens or getting the football outside on hitches and quick passes to try to affect how you can change up the timing for that defensive end, that defensive front, disrupting the pocket.
And it's affected those rushers from the standpoint that, gone are the old rules, gone are contain, gone or stay in your lane.
Right.
Because especially with you go up and play New England, that ball is going to be out quick. Forget about that. Just crash the pocket. Try to create some kind of a distraction in there. I don't know whether you got to spin in, whether you got to get out of your lane to get there, whatever. So it's created a more enjoyable. It's frustrating because when that quarterback rolls out and beats the perimeter, it's frustrating, but it's also
hey, somebody keep your contain.
Yeah, exactly. but then I also see the guy do an inside spin move with no contain and get a say, hey, I like that.
Great move.
As long as it works, it's great.
He was playing on the edge, right?
But it's created a situation where these guys they can't play by the old rules anymore. It's got to be more hell bent. It's got to be more throwing things up for grabs and just going and getting in the face of the quarterback. Along that line, John, we were talking about players. We were talking about guys like Bobby McCain getting better last year. Can Tank raise his game to the next level? Chase Allen started a lot of games. Can he raise his game? All those things. Along that line, we got Matt Burke in his second year as the defensive coordinator. And just like a player, I think Matt Burke has spent the entire offseason evaluating, looking at every call he made, looking at every play that they played defensively, and saying to myself, what could I have done better in this situation, on that down and distance, wherever the ball was, this type of situation? I think he's looking for a big lift in his quality of the job that he's doing this year.
Well, there's a lot of things defensively that Adam Gase would like to improve on. That's starting with stopping the run. You have to be able to shut down the run, and teams that are in the high 20s in that category, they're going to have a tough time stacking wins together. So if you stop the run, if you're Matt Burke on defense, that would be number one priority. And I think the other one is getting your hands on the football. Yeah. You have to be able to force fumbles. You have to be able to get in passing lanes and take it away from opposing offenses. And I think that aggressive mentality you talked about with the defensive front, having all those bodies being able to get after the quarterback, you got to get chances at linebacker. You got to get chances as a defensive secondary to take the football away. And if you can get better in those categories, you're certainly going to keep teams off the scoreboard.
Yep.
And that's going to help the offense in turn.
You see a little guest coach out here today?
I did not.
It's not. What's Rex Ryan's brother?
Rob.
Rob
on the sideline.
It's hard to miss him. Hard to miss Rob Ryan. How'd you miss that? I saw him walking the field. I go, what the hell's this guy doing in the Dolphin?
Last time I saw him in the gear, he was in the Saints gear, wasn't he?
Yeah. Isaac Bruce was out of practice the other day, so they get a whole cast of characters.
You know what? You can watch him at practice the last couple of days, just as a guest of the Dolphins, and he's kind of got his nose in there. Every time a defensive linebacker made a play or a defensive tackle, had some contact behind the line of scrimmage, you could see him step towards the field of play like you wanted to congratulate him.
He's keeping an eye on number 58 there. My boy from San Jose State brought him into play.
That's
a little.
Right.
The guy was a leading tackle. I can't even pronounce his name.
Ginda.
He was a leading tackler in college football last year. Guy came out as a junior and goes undrafted. And whoever his agent was should be strung up.
You're right.
But anyway.
Well, how about the way Quentin Poling, the other linebacker, kind of undersized but runs all over the field, number 51. He's one of those rookies that were drafted late by the Dolphins, and he fits the mold of what you've had in the past with Mike Hull. Special teams, running around, tackle to tackle.
Chase Allen, he was doing. But every year, every team has these guys.
That's right.
Every team, those next 3 or 4 linebackers that don't make the roster, they're all good players.
They're all really
talented,
they're all really
good talent, really talented, and they're just maybe they're not tall enough, maybe they're just a little step slow, but they're all very, very good players, and they're all guys that you're going to watch all preseason long, and they're going to be hell bent for leather on every special teams down they can make, and it's going to be interesting too, John, with the special teams and the players on special teams, especially with the new kicking game rules, kickoffs. I think you're going to see a lot more DBs, a lot more wide receivers out there, and get away. The big guys are going to be gone from kickoffs.
That's right.
And so
athletes on the field.
So it's going to be a lot more athletic on that, which is going to look a lot more similar to a punt return than a kickoff return with the new rule changes.
Bo, you're definitely right. There's hopefully a little less penalties and a little bit more excitement on special teams. But mentioning the kicking game, what a competition this is going to start. It has started in training camp. 2 rookie kickers for the Miami Dolphins. That's going to be something that Dolphin fans want to watch on how many opportunities that the Dolphins have 3rd and 12. They may run the football around the 30-yard line just to get guys chances to kick in the preseason games, because you can kick at practice all you want, but when the lights are on, the crowd's here, and the excitement of a game in a stadium, you want to see those guys perform. So, you've got a guy in Jason Sanders and the rookie from FAU, Greg Joseph. They've been battling every day at training camp, so it's something to watch today as well.
Tell you the other thing, I had a chance. I was upstairs a little bit before we went on the air, and I had a chance to talk to Minka Fitzpatrick's father, and you can kind of see where the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, because really a classy guy, good guy, really proud obviously of his kid. And here's a guy we haven't talked about, and he has certainly lived up so far lived up to everything that has been said. This guy's he's a pro from the get-go. He takes notes about everything. Every come on, you can leap that. Chris Chambers going to try to do the Fosbury flop across the wall here. But I mean, here's a kid that's studies hard, always taking notes, and he looks like he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years already.
I love the way he approaches practice. I love the angles he takes. I like that he can play multiple positions. They're kind of force feeding him with information, and it doesn't look like he's in overload.
No.
He looks like he's handling it in stride. He looks like he belongs. That's the most important thing I can tell when I watch him practice.
And you know what? The other thing is he acts like he came in as an undrafted free agent.
That's right.
He's not looking for anyone to give anything to him. He's looking to go out and earn anything. And a guy that earned it for a long time here with the Miami Dolphins joined us, Chris Chambers. Chris, how you doing, my man?
I am doing well.
Good to see you, Chris.
Nice to be out in.
Man, this is great.
We dragged you out of the air conditioning to come down here.
You know what? That spot up there, the 9 right there, that's probably gonna be my first and last time up there. But it's pretty cool to be around.
But you're gonna enjoy it up there.
Yes, I will.
Chris, you've been having a chance to keep an eye on this team. I know it's been a week, first inter-squad scrimmage, but been having a chance to keep an eye on these guys a little bit?
I have not.
Yep.
Believe it or not, I have not been to no off-season. You probably haven't even seen
Yep.
me. All right. I try to keep tabs. Obviously, I follow the Dolphins a lot, so I see what goes on there. They usually highlight some players, so it's a little bit different to actually be here. So today I'm kind of going to lock in a little bit and kind of see what the guys have to offer.
How's things?
Go ahead. Go.
How's things with the chamber? We haven't seen you in a while.
No, I haven't. You know, the chamber, I closed the chamber last year. And then I went on to a performance company called Fitzpatrick, and then I opened up another company in California called OC Supreme. So I'm a little bit bi-coastal now, and I'm managing players, and I'm easing into managing players for whatever reason, which I really love doing that. And I'm working with kids, so
that's great.
I'm having fun. I'm a little bit more flexible these days. I hope to be around more.
Hey, Chris, let's talk about you. You got a guy here in Jarvis Landry over the last 4 years. Caught more balls than anybody in the National Football League.
Yep.
Probably had more targets than anybody in the National Football League. For one reason or another, he's in Cleveland.
Yep.
He's not here now. They go out and get a Danny Amendola. They get an Albert Wilson. They're hoping to spread the ball around a little bit. How do you think that affects the receivers in that room? And how can it benefit or how can it hurt your offense?
Well, you know what, Jarvis wears everything on his sleeve. You know when he plays his game, he's gonna leave it all on the field. So I love him for that. And if I was a player with him, I'll be doing the same thing right along with him. So we're gonna miss that part of it. Yeah. But now we got a chance to see what some of the other guys can do. Kenny Stills obviously have to elevate his game this year. He'll get more targets because he's a guy that, if you give him the ball, he usually come down with it. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get, 10, 11 targets a game and see what he can do with it. Obviously, Devontae is another guy who can benefit for that a lot. I look forward to seeing a lot of big things from him. And then you got Jakeem Grant with some experience, Carew. I like the young guys. So I think it's going to be a good crew this year, man. I'm just looking forward for them to take it to the next level. I think that's what we all want.
One of the big questions that we talked about earlier is Devontae Parker.
Yeah.
Is he going to get to that next level? We've seen him kind of get up there and touch it a little bit and then kind of drop down, but can he get up there and get up there? And Chris, what does he need to do to be that guy?
Yeah, you know what? Obviously he didn't get a chance to be on the field as much as we were like last year. Hopefully this offseason, I didn't even pay attention to him this offseason because I want to see what happens in the games, in the consistent games, consistent health. I think he's going to be able to do some great things. He's back with Ryan Tannehill. I thought they had a great rapport when Tannehill was here. So I look forward to seeing some of those 50-50 balls and him coming down with them.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him just to take the top off, and be more consistent. And I think you hit it, Chris, about Kenny Stills. This is a guy that has a history of getting behind coverage, has a history of making somebody miss and making explosive plays. And if both of those guys, in their own way, can be a little bit more consistent, it's sure going to make number 17 coming back for the first time after injury, make him feel a hell of a lot more comfortable throwing the football on those 50-50 opportunities, knowing that they have a chance to come down with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a quarterback, that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to trust the guy. They've been together for about 4 years now.
That's right.
Yeah, so at that point, it's go time.
Yeah.
All right, so no more talking. We got everything's got to happen on the field. I guess it starts a little bit today, so we'll kind of see. But obviously, as the preseason goes along, in the first game, you're going to want to see them guys connect early and often.
Got 7-on-7 going right now. And Chris, we're going to let you go here real quick. But before I let you go, one question. As a wide receiver, there's been a lot of talk, certainly this offseason. After the draft, they go out and get Mike Gesicki. They get Durham Smythe. They get 2 tight ends. This team for years has been looking for that tight end. I think Randy McMichael was probably the last guy we had that really made a big impact at that position. Now they go ahead and get 2 guys. What does it do to a wide receiver when you got a tight end or 2 tight ends, but one tight end that you have to respect, that runs down the middle of the field and is a target every time you throw the football?
You know what? Having Randy was great, but Randy was a dog blocking too. We all know that. So he was an all-around, very versatile tight end. I don't know if they even make them dudes these days. The guy, everybody else a little bit more pass catcher. But for me, I played with Antonio Gates. So I saw complete one-on-one coverage. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get to that point, but if they can get halfway or just a little bit to that point where they're manning the middle of the field and you're singling up guys like Devontae and Kenny on the outside, a team with defense is going to have a long day going against these guys. So I look forward to see which tight end is going to step up this year, and obviously the red zone is going to be a great opportunity for them.
Chris, appreciate your time, man.
Yeah,
always
thanks,
a pleasure.
Chris.
Dragging you
Thanks
down
a
for the
lot.
AC and that good food up there.
I'm back. I had my ribs, Bruce Room. I appreciate it. Shout out to them.
Yeah, Bob Brzezinski, Bruce Room, supplying the food up there.
But we good.
This is Bob's. This is Bob's territory here.
Bob, this is yours. Okay.
Bob got
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I always look forward to going up and eating his food too. So. especially when there you go.
Gesicki.
Look, how about that?
Hey,
Good
Mike.
see, huh? How about that? Talk about that, and here he is right in front of us. Hey, John, it's been a pleasure
that's
being with
been
you,
fun,
man. Looking
Bo.
forward to the scrimmage. Now they'll be out. Scrimmage is really just getting started right now. Offense, defense, ones versus twos, and they'll probably go about what 4 different series.
That's right.
Numbers wise, and then they'll
Ones
wrap it
against
up. But
twos on offense and defense.
got a nice crowd here at Hard Rock Stadium. The clouds are kind of keeping things a little cool, so it should be a good day. Thanks for listening to the program today, John. Thanks all the
Thanks,
time. Always
Bo.
a pleasure. And thanks for the guys that did the work getting set up out here. And, hey, enjoy the scrimmage, and we'll catch you next time.